Hi folks, Steven here. So, this is going to be another one of our Pokemon Go presentations. Primarily, I do have a few other things to go over. Of course, this last weekend was Pokemon Go Fest 2021. Like last year, it was another virtual event. They did have some things set up in various places. Like I know they had a big Hague in Chicago, where this event would normally be during a normal year. But like I said, like last year, virtual event. I did go through, accomplished most of all the tasks that I was given and most of the stuff I wanted to. So I actually managed to accomplish quite a bit. Now, the first thing I want to do is actually bring up a presentation, because that's how this usually goes if you haven't seen this before. Let's see, we're going to share the screen. Okay, this time it is not showing the toolbar for some reason, which is actually not what I want. I wouldn't want there. If you see my last live stream, you might remember I had some trouble there. But, first order of business, GoFest weather. Now, unfortunately, since last year's GoFest was last year, I don't have the weather statistics for that. I could dig through, but I'd have to do more. Instead, I just wanted to show you what we had. Had pretty normal weather for this last weekend. I'm certain there were definitely some places. Heart goes out to places that had flooding in Europe, and I think the West Coast is still pretty hot these days. But as far as here in Madison, we had pretty typical July weather. On Saturday, we had a high of 81, low of 55, wind speed 5.4 miles per hour. Yesterday, on the 18th, it was a high of 83, low of 54. Both the low temperature is a little bit on the low side, nothing too crazy, but the high temperature is pretty close to average, 3.6 miles per hour wind yesterday, very calm. All this, of course, is from the National Weather Service. So this was a two-day event, Saturday and Sunday, so I didn't have to plan things out. So where did I go on day one? Well, the first place I went, I went and gave blood. So I was... I'm O negative, in case you're curious. And by the way, no sponsorship by the Red Cross or anyone else you're going to see in this video. But I figured I'd do a little public service announcement. My time had come up to do my blood donation. It had been long enough since my last one, so I did take care of that. I also liked having an excuse to get up first thing in the morning, since my appointment was at 8:30 and the Pokemon Go stuff started at 10. So that gave me a very nice excuse to take care of that stuff. But I went over to the... call it an office. I'm not sure exactly. I assume it had some other purpose when it was originally built, but their facility on the west side where they do take donations on a daily basis, so was able to take care of that reasonably well. Of course, you notice this is an AR photo with Nidoran female down there at the bottom. All right. Let's see. So, like we would with the Community Day, Professor Willow drops by to give us some details. This year's was music-themed, which, is a big deal to me. I'm obviously a very musically inclined person, so very glad to have that as a theme this time. And actually, he says that the good vibes go round and round, which... of course, round is the name of an actual attack. It didn't, came out, I believe, in Generation 5. They integrated it into the trading card game. It was never as successful as they wanted. I think they brought it back in another X-Cloud card recently. We'll see if I don't know if that's gone anywhere either. I'm a little, slightly bitter about that aspect of the Gen 5 trading card game, having been very interested in it. Alright. So here's sort of your first task. I wanted to point these ones out in particular just because these flow very naturally. Earn a heart with your buddy, you get an incense. Use an incense, you get Pokeballs. And then you can catch Pokemon. They're very generous with Pokeballs on this one. So I didn't have too many problems running out of anything. In fact, I've still got a decent number left. Actually, I've got a lot of stuff left over in terms of goods and stuff like that. We'll talk more about that later. But of course, you can see this is 11 steps. Now, I don't think there were actually 11 sets of tasks. I think some of them were some things that will come up later, counted as steps in there. Now, the way it was structured on the first day is that there were both days had 8 hours of stuff. On the first day, every hour there was a task that had to be completed. So here's one that was for the first hour. We had to get a certain number of great throws, and then we would get XP bonuses for subsequent throws, bonuses for that hour. So this actually, I managed to do pretty well with this. Once this was unlocked, I managed to get a couple excellence, which 5x, that's 5,000 experience points for each, which was honestly pretty good. By the way, don't forget, folks in the chat room, you can always post in your thoughts and stuff like that. I may not be able to get to some of them until after the PowerPoint, but I will try and work those in. As you can see, this was kind of early. I did make a few more great throws to contribute to the total, but that worked out fairly well. The other thing that happened is they had 4 different habitats. Each one came through twice. And each habitat had a set of 10 Pokemon that would spawn more often than usual. And they would, and your goal was to complete all of these, because you actually got some pretty good bonuses. You got 20 Ultra Balls, and 1 or 2 other things. I think there might have been an experience bonus. I wanted to specifically call it the ocean or water one that you can see on the right there. There's a tendency, as some of you will know, that the Pokemon listed there some of them have very high candy requirements to evolve, so it was very nice to see those, especially since the bonus for that, once it was completed for that hour, was in fact bonus candy for catching those Pokemon. So Magikarp, Whalmer, Swablu, Feebas, all have relatively high requirements there, if I remember correctly. Although I think, well, Feebas, you also have to walk with it, and stuff like that. So it was very nice that they offered that bonus there, and I was able to make some progress on some of those. So good there. And in fact, I was able on day 1. I did have to wait till the second time around for some of them, but I was able to get all 4 sets complete. So I was able to get all the bonuses there, which was really nice. Alright, next up. So where did I go after I gave blood? Well, I didn't want to exert myself too much. Even though it wasn't super hot outside, I wanted to be careful and go some places. First, I tried doing some stuff kind of locally. I stopped back by my apartment and took care of a few things while I was there. No, I'm sorry. That's for tomorrow. That's for day 2. I'm sorry about that. But I actually stopped at a couple stores on the first day. Very sorry about that confusion there. I stopped at a discount half-price books. Again, not sponsored. I wanted to buy something musical if I could. I bought the soundtrack to Jurassic Park, the 93 movie. And then I stopped over at West Town Mall. You may remember that last year, before the pandemic hit, I did a Go Community Day, I think in January, because it was really cold outside that day, and I thought, I may as well go inside. The mall isn't doing maybe the greatest at the moment, but it wasn't doing terrible. I did take a couple of AR photos while I was there. I wanted to point out on the right, apparently this mall now has an arcade. Arcades used to be a staple at malls. They disappeared for a while, and now this is back. It's got mostly like claw-type games or other... I don't know if they have a name, win a prize type games, but they also had a couple pinball tables. They had one from The Mandalorian, which is kind of surprising. That's already got a pinball table there. And a couple arcade games in the back. But I found that very interesting to see at a mall in the modern day. Let's see here. So, once you got to a certain point in there, you got to make some choices. Now, they sort of implemented this earlier this month with some of the Bidoof stuff, although it was always a false choice there. But they sort of baited that feature earlier this month. And your choices were Pikachu Rockstar and Pikachu Popstar. So I like to think that I have pretty diverse taste in music, genre-wise. There's no genre I absolutely hate or anything like that. But I did go with the Rockstar there. I did kind of want to point out here that regardless of the Pikachu type you chose, you did get a female Pikachu, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm glad actually that they had a female Rockstar Pikachu because, women are typically underrepresented in rock music, which is a bit sad and unfortunate. But I guess it would be nice to also have a male version of each as well. I guess maybe the Popstar was a little too, they didn't want to make a separate male-looking one for that. I don't know. Like I said, I am glad that there's a female rock star one, but it would have been nice to have both genders for both. All right. Well, like I said, I chose the Pikachu rock star. Like I said, you can tell they're female because they have the heart on the back there. And that apparently drives some stuff. First of all, it drives the music you hear during it, which we'll talk a little bit about some of the special musical stuff they've done for Pokemon Go for this festival, which is interesting. And then they give you some other choices later, like you can have a Zigzagoon or Ponyta as I forget exactly what they did. And also Flygon and Gardevoir. Now, very clearly, the Zigzagoon and the Flygon were targeted towards the rock stuff, and the Ponyta and the Gardevoir were targeted towards the pop stuff. But the contrarian in me, or part-time contrarian anyway, decided to go with Ponyta and Gardevoir just because, just to sort of do that. It is kind of nice, though, that they give you some of the Galarian stuff, though, there with the Zigzagoon and the Ponyta. So I did appreciate that they worked some of that in there. Let's see. All right, so yeah, you keep going through these. Kind of interesting things here. This is later in there. You had to defeat a couple Team Go Rocket members, not grunts, but members, which was nice because actually I had a couple completed rocket radars, and I beat a couple of the Not Giovanni, the people below him. I forget exactly what they're called, but I'm glad that counted, and I didn't have to get just grunts and turn off stuff. So that was kind of nice of them. All right. Well, it was pretty well telegraphed what would happen at the end of the tasks here. That you'd eventually get to a point where you would get to have a show and encounter a certain mythical Pokemon. Yes, known as the Melody Pokemon, and inspired many famous songs. Oh, interesting. I wonder if it gets royalties. Willow says, I'm sure that Pokemon will introduce itself if it decides to swing by. And indeed, it did. And yep, it's Meloetta. And when it appears, I should point out, Meloetta is sometimes portrayed as female, but officially it is genderless. I believe they did a version of the Relic song, which I believe is Meloetta associated. As you may guess, Meloetta is it's actually my favorite legendary or mythical Pokemon in the series. Being a musically inclined person, that's probably not a huge surprise. In fact, I did tweet out over the weekend reminding folks, I did actually get to Meloetta's voice actress in the dub for the singing voice. They had to replace that for licensing reasons. Oh gosh, and I can see her and I cannot remember the name off the top of my head. I am so sorry to you out there. It'll come to me sometime later, hopefully. But just want to put that out there. But yeah, it comes out there, does a little performance there, and then you get to catch it. And obviously that's a new experience for everyone, and I really appreciate that. Let's see. Here are some notable captures I got on day one, actually. All of these, of course, were new Pokemon for me. I got Audino. I'm kind of surprised I never ran into one of those before. I don't know if that was really a new thing or what there. Unfortunately, unlike in the May games, you don't get a zillion experience from the Audino, but I was appreciative nonetheless. Also got a Leafeon, which is really nice. I also got there was also some other Eevee evolutions out there. I know I got a Vaporeon, and then a Sawk. And I forget, that must be one of those ones that split, because you see a lot of Throw around here, but not Sawk. I'm guessing that's one of the ones that split out there. Alright, well I think that about covers it for day one. Day two? Yeah, so I was a little more adventurous. I had recovered a bit, obviously, after giving blood on day one. And I decided, well, first I tried to do some stuff locally. Realized that wasn't working out. And then I went over to a different mall, the Hilldale Mall, which is usually pretty good. It usually has a decent amount of traffic, but there wasn't much going on there. So I finally gave up and decided, okay, I'm going to have to go either to downtown or to campus. Downtown Madison is a little bit ambiguous just because the downtown area from, you can see it right here, the state capitol building, goes down something called State Street, which the name just follows from there. And that leads directly into the UW campus, which also has a lot of rather impressive buildings, so it's kind of hard to say where downtown Madison ends. But anyway, that's where I went. I mostly stayed on State Street and thereabouts. So you can see this nice little AR picture of Nidoran female by the Wisconsin State Capitol building. It was actually kind of interesting. They did something this weekend called Maxwell Street Stage, which is a little bit of a local festival type thing where they had some of the streets blocked off and stuff like that for vendors and things of that nature. So that was kind of a fun thing there. But the big attraction? Yes, legendary Pokemon by the truckload. And you notice the sky, it changed, looked very different. In fact, just generally speaking, recently they added a proper transition from day to night, and I guess vice versa, to the game recently. If you've been out near sunset, you've noticed that it doesn't go straight from daytime to nighttime when sunset gets hit. It actually has a bit of a transition now. But on Sunday they had something very different where we have all these rings. Gee, I don't know where those could be coming from. But there were tons and tons of legendary raids, and as I kind of expected, the downtown area was the place to be to participate in those. But in any case, it gave you some new tasks to complete. This one not nearly as long as the one for Meloetta. It says Strange Rings. First you gotta transfer some Pokemon, take some snapshots, and battle in some raids, which, like I said, were very plentiful where I was. Very fortunate there. And then we have just one more set of tasks there, more raid stuff, great throws, and catch a bunch of different Pokemon, which made things a fair bit interesting there. But you can see you get some pretty decent rewards. 5,000 XP for the first, 10,000 for the second set of tasks, and 20,000 every time you win a legendary raid. So that is, my goodness, it was not difficult for me to justify purchasing more remote raid passes yesterday with some of my in-game credit. That actually worked out decently well. And here's some of the stuff I encountered, of course. Let's see. Hans Christian Heg is one of the stops right by the Capitol. I forget. I think it's on the north side of the building if you ever are visiting Madison. There's several stops on the Capitol Square. Several gyms, actually. And then, of course, I got Kyurem, which was a new catch for me. I got Terrakion. I got a perfect Terrakion, actually. One that has maximum values in all stats. Had a fun conversation to explain what the Musketeer Trio was to some folks there. Obviously, this is something I didn't do last year, but now that I am vaccinated, I feel a little more comfortable going out for stuff like this. Let's see here. So that's just some of the stuff I got. Now, gee, what's this about? Well, every time you battled and defeated a legendary in a raid, you got not only did you get a ton of items, really. You got some revives, you got healing items. My bag is quite full in Pokemon Go right now. But you also get a bunch of rare candy, and that let me do some things that I've been putting off for a while. I finally got my Staryu that I caught evolved into a Starmie. I finally got my Weepinbell evolved into a Victory Bell, and that allowed me... Yes, I finally completed the Kanto portion of the Pokédex, all 151 of them. You know, I had gotten Mew within the last year or so. Mewtwo, I think I got at last year's Go Fest. They had that in there. And some of the other tougher ones, like Pinsir or something like that. I forget exactly. One of the bug ones was normally quite difficult. I also got a Mr. Mime back in 2019. I managed to get that at Charles de Gaulle Airport in France when I was going to Berlin. Very fortunate. I definitely appreciate that. But yes, as of yesterday, I finished the Kanto Pokédex in Pokemon Go. I took a look at what's going to take for me to get the Johto one. I've got all the legendaries and mythicals. I've got, all the legendary beasts, Ho-Oh, Lugia, and Celebi. But I've still got a number of Pokemon that I need to evolve or catch there, notably Hitmontop. So a little ways to go there, but yep, was finally able to complete that. And yes, I leveled up. I made it to level 35. I actually got, I think yesterday, I went from close to 800,000 on level 34 to over 800,000 on level 35. Excuse me. Which I think is like 600,000 or 700,000 experience points, which is just kind of crazy. I'm sure it's almost certainly the most I've ever made experience-wise in a day. So that was fairly, that was an accomplishment. So keep working, I'm going to keep working on that, obviously. Alright, let's talk about the music. It wasn't just musically themed, there was actual music for this year's Go Fest. So first off, there was the pop and rock path, and depending on which one, that would change the overworld music. To be honest, I've never been the music for Pokemon Go. First of all, it is fairly lo-fi for whatever reason. It's like all in mono, and it doesn't have like the full frequency response range. I'm guessing that's just to save some space on a game that otherwise takes up a lot of it. I don't know. 2016 phones didn't have quite as much capacity as they do now. Let's see. The rock overworld music, part of it kind of reminds me a little bit stylistically, not compositionally, of Don't You Forget About Me, Simple Minds from The Breakfast Club. Very famous movie with a very famous song. I believe I have that correct. That being said, I've never been as impressed or hit as hard by the Pokemon Go music as other parts of the franchise, especially like the Pokemon Masters music. I think that some is somewhat intentional, to be honest. You wouldn't want music that would be so enveloping that you would have it on there and you'd lose track of your surroundings, so it has a fairly, it's not as aggressive or dynamic as maybe it could be. I think one of my favorites, though, I think last year for October they did the Lavender Town. They did a pretty good arrangement of that. But of course, if you stayed into the night, you may notice that the nighttime overworld music got some lyrics. It's a duet between a male and a female. I don't know who performs that. I wouldn't be surprised if the woman was Haven Pashal, but that's just kind of a guess on my part, since they seem to bring her in for a lot of types of things. It seems like if there's only an English version of it. I'm not gonna, say it's awful or anything. The lyrics are just kind of, I get the feeling they didn't have a ton of time to come up with something there. Like maybe they wanted to do it just having them, singing this, la 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 la, but then I said, oh, let's do lyrics, or maybe they had to do a quickie translation from something in like Japanese or something like that. Who knows? So it's interesting. I'll have to check again tonight to see if they're still using it. But I guess I can say I appreciate the effort and stuff like that. Okay. Well, that certainly wasn't the only musical thing that was happening. Let's see. But let's go over some overall thoughts on this one. Let's see, Hoopa was actually useful. I like to joke, Hoopa's a 6th generation Pokemon, but was it put in charge for some reason of the 5th generation trading card game? It's because so many legendaries in there, for better or, in my opinion, somewhat for worse. But yesterday, it seemed to do a pretty good job. Had a lot of fun catching all those legendaries, filling up a lot of spots in my Pokédex that I was missing. There were still a few that eluded me. I wasn't able to catch a Kyogre or an Azelf, unfortunately. But I am otherwise mostly covered for the first 3 or 4 generations, and somewhat beyond. Now the other thing is, Hoopa wasn't actually catchable. I'm guessing they're going to be adding that as a research task, maybe sometime in the next few months. We'll see. But I guess that's just the way it is for this one. That's what, more interaction with other players. So since I was vaccinated, I felt a lot better about going different places and meeting people, especially on day 2. Met some very nice people in the downtown area. There were a fair number of people there playing, at least for some time there. I think it the last hour, so it went till 6 p.m. Starting around 5, things really started to slow down there. But I met some very nice folks and got to converse with them. I did try to remind them about stuff like some of the event type stuff, which is always a great place to do Pokemon Go. If you've never been to like an anime convention or a tournament, you can always count on being able to do some really great Pokemon Go stuff like you do at an event like this then. And then, Raid Mania on day 2. The bulk of the Pokemon from the raids that would spawn either at the top or the bottom of the hour. And there were some definite patterns there. I guess the weather would change in-game every hour or so, and then the Pokemon would be themed on that. So, like, all the ice and water Pokemon were during 1 hour, and the lightning Pokemon were all during another, so on and so forth. For someone like me who had some legendaries, but not as many as I would hope for, that was really something I enjoyed there. They'll probably do something maybe a little bit different. It's going to be hard to follow up that one, but I'm sure they'll think of something for next year's event and other major events that might show up in the future. Alright, well, we talked a lot about music. That's right, there is another musical thing that happened this weekend in the world of Pokemon. So on Friday, we got a new Pokemon 25th anniversary entry. This is Take It Home by Mabel. I think I'm saying that about right. She's a British performer. She had an album that came out, I think, in 2019. I did a little research on her. Hasn't made maybe a ton of waves since, but she did show up here again. Now, in addition to being able to buy the song, there is a music video you can see on there. It's kind of interesting. It's got some dancing. It's got... it's interesting. It starts out in like a hotel where the Mabel is like watching TV and turns on something that has like Gigantamax, Pikachu, and Celebi, and then we transition to this other stuff. The main featured Pokemon really is actually Jigglypuff, which I'm glad to see. As far as the song itself, I'm always a little reticent to talk too much about these, just because, in part, I have a suspicion that some of these might show up in the dub of Secrets of the Jungle whenever that comes out. But as far as the lyrics, this is a trainer/Pokemon relationship song. So it's just like, I'll be your champion and stuff like that. And I think Take It Home is supposed to be sort of another way of saying, get the job done and stuff like that. Complete the task, complete the test, stuff like that. I do like the beats, the drum beats in this song. I think they're pretty good. And the music video, like I said, has some nice dancing. I think it's somewhat India-inspired, the country, not Native Americans. Which kind of makes sense since there's a connection, somewhat semi-problematic connection between India and the United Kingdom from when India used to be a colony. But there is a cultural transference and overlap there as a result, which has some positive effects. But overall, I like it. It's obviously not getting the same traction that, say, Electric got, because, to be honest, Mabel isn't quite as well known as Katy Perry. Let's kind of face that. But I think she put in a good effort there, and I hope I'll see. I doubt I would get an interview with Mabel, but I might try and find some of the folks who did the writing or stuff like that, or worked on the music video, and see if I can get an interview with one of them. I'll put in that effort. But do check that out if you haven't already, if you somehow missed that in all of this. Very busy musical weekend for Pokemon, let me say that. Alright, so, Pokecasters Network updates. Want to talk about some recent episodes that have come out? Let's see, the Poke Science podcast put out Weathering the Storm. Apparently they're talking about weather effects and like the amount of energy it takes to evaporate clouds and also stuff like that. Looks like Critical Hitmonlee, which is has the Ghoulcrest Gym Challenge Round 1, which is actually 2 separate episodes with different characters in them. And then Welcome to the World of Pokemon, their latest episode is episode 51 on Dugtrio. So they've made their way that far. As far as my podcast, let's see, Ann and I are hoping to discuss Mystery Dungeon, Red Rescue Team, Blue Rescue Team. We're hoping to do a live stream next weekend. I had asked her if she could, we could somehow squeeze it in this weekend, this last weekend. But she was going to be out of town or whatever. She had other plans. So we're hoping that next weekend, this upcoming weekend, we'll be able to do that. Probably on Saturday, but I haven't heard any confirmation back from her. So that's not set in stone in any way. But you can also check out these, and hopefully soon I can get, the next one that goes out on the podcast feed would be our discussion of Pokemon Coliseum for the GameCube. So looking forward to that. All right. Well, so that concludes the actual PowerPoint there. Let's see. If anyone does have any comments, I always appreciate that. Always like to hear what did you come up with. I will give the chat a few seconds to put that in, but otherwise, yeah. So let's just do a quick review. So yeah, this last weekend was Pokemon Go Fest. Let's see. Coming up soon should be our discussion. We should be recording hopefully next weekend for the Pokemon Red Rescue Team, Blue Rescue Team Mystery Dungeon side game music discussion. Really looking forward to that. Now, if you didn't know, last weekend, I believe it was, I did a live stream of both the original Blue Rescue Team and also some of Mystery Dungeon DX. So if you need to refresh yourself on the music before that, please take a look at that one. Otherwise, we're looking forward to recording that relatively soon. Like I said, hopefully next weekend. Aside from that, I don't have too much else, but thank you to everyone who showed up today. If you are watching this as a replay, feel free to give us a comment. We'll try to work it into a future discussion. Did you have any opinions on the music for Pokemon Go Fest or on Take It Home? We'd love to hear about it. All right, folks, thanks.